As a leader in any sport, what you have to do is take the temperature of your team. You're kind of like a nurse. And if your team's too hot, you need to come out calm and cool them down. They're committing silly turnovers, committing silly fouls. As a leader, you need to settle them down. If your team's coming out flat, you take their temperature and their temperature's low, so to speak. What you need to do as a leader is you need to come out and you need to heat them up. You need to get them fired up. You have to display more energy, more passion. So last night was a masterpiece by Steph Curry, and you saw him hit a three, and he went down and was screaming at the Boston fans. I've always said Steph Curry's typical game face is a game face of joy. You guys know that. He's smiling, and Steve Kerr preaches joy. I think it's a good way to play, but I always said he's not always joyous. We've seen him throw his mouth guard. We've seen him snarl. And last night was a lot more snarling Steph Curry because he knew he had to increase the temperature of his team, bring them up from being a little bit flat. And in the Warriors, a lot of them came out flat. It's a very fine line to walk when you're in a high-pressure game because you have to find the right temperature. If you come out too amped up, you're going to get in foul trouble, make silly turnovers, your shot's going to be off. You know, you see this, you might notice this when you're in layup lines before a big game. You're jumping a little higher. You ever notice how springy you might feel? That's your adrenaline going in you. Adrenaline's pumping because of the big game. So you have to tone that down, but not too much. You need to keep a little bit of that on tap. You need to, I've always said siphon it. You know how you you can put a tube in a gas tank, suck a little bit, and the gas starts coming out, a little bit of it. That's kind of what you do with that adrenaline that is coursing through you. You want to just siphon a little bit into your system from the tank of adrenaline. You just don't want to dump it into your system. And sometimes you do that in warm-ups and you come out and you're like, damn, why am I so tired? A lot of MMA fighters experience this. But the great thing about Curry last night was not just the skill on display and the shooting on display. And notice that through the playoffs, they don't guard Steph the same way they guard him in the regular season. The refs allow a lot of grabbing, touching, hugging, pushing, little light touches. And when you're a shooter, a little light touch can throw your shot off. Steph plays through all of that and hardly ever complains. When he got bumped by Tatum last night, even that was Steph. Usually he's not that demonstrative, but he was last night because it wasn't just about that shot. But it was a signal to his teammates. We are going to fight tooth and nail to win this. Every point counts. That 4-point play, it's a psychological blow, which should have been a 4-point play. I think he did get fouled. It was a psychological blow if I get the call, and it's an extra point. In a game like this, every point counts. And Steph showed that. Steve Kerr got a tech. Again, that energy. You're in an arena with a hostile crowd. Sometimes you have to meet loudness with loudness, energy with energy. It's not a science though, right? Because sometimes the best thing to do is remain calm in a frenzied environment. What Curry did last night psychologically is that it seemed as if he was able to modulate the intensity of his motion throughout the game. He would get worked up, but then go right back to that calm place so he could shoot and remain focused. It was a masterpiece of emotional intelligence. He smiled a few times. You'd notice he'd get mad and then he'd smile and kind of shake it off. It was like the Tiger Woods 10-step rule. If Tiger hit a bad shot, he'd allow himself about 10 steps to be furious and then right back to calm. You guys can learn from this. Not just in sports, but in your whole life. If you get a little flare up at work, at school, feel it, and then just right back to the zone. Curry did this. That's what I watch. As a guy who loves the psychology of sports, the psychology of life, to see how they react emotionally. It was fantastic to see him get angry after a big shot, get intense, and then right back to that cool, calm demeanor. And you could see his team sort of feed off that. Steph's doing his thing. He's carrying us. I can just be around, be in the right places at the right time. When the leader takes the lead, and Steph did this, when he takes the lead, it allows the role players to play their roles. And when that happens, you see a team that is going to play very well because everyone is doing their part. So Curry being the emotional leader, the points leader, which is very important. Don't let anybody tell you that there's anything more important in the game of basketball than scoring the basketball. That's the name of the game. And when you're the leader and you're scoring and you're the emotional leader, the other guys can play their roles. They don't try to compensate for you missing shots. They're not trying to say, okay, well, Steph doesn't have it. I'm going to take a shot I normally wouldn't hit to try to keep us in the game. You don't see that. You see the role players taking the role. You see Looney playing his role. You see Gary Payton Jr. Awesome shot in the corner by Curry when Gary Payton Jr. gave up the ball. The leader, the star player, the superstar, the megastar, the team will start to defer to that leader. And that's because Curry came out emotionally at the perfect pitch, and his skills were absolutely on point and immaculate. So it was a masterpiece from a skill perspective, but most importantly, I think it was a masterpiece from a psychological perspective. It's a psychological masterpiece. Up when he needed to be up, bring the team up, calm down when he needed to calm the team down.